a size of company where I really enjoy it, we make good money. So this is like a map with the drill results. Sonic results, Australia Creek.
No one saw this coming. Parker Schnabel just handed his crew a jaw-dropping payout that left everyone speechless. His team works through brutal cold, dangerous conditions, and exhausting hours, all for the hope of striking it rich. How much money do these hardworking miners actually take home after the dust settles? Let us uncover the truth behind this massive payout that caused the U.S. government to start investigating him for shady activities. The hidden cost of chasing gold. Every season, Parker's operation pulls in jaw-dropping numbers. This time, the crew managed to haul in more than 73,000 ounces of gold. That's worth over $14 million. Sounds like an insane payout, right? But before you start thinking everyone's walking away as millionaires, let's break it down. Mining isn't just about collecting gold. It's also about paying for fuel, repairs, equipment, and, of course, the workers who make it all happen. Before we break it all down, one thing is certain. The truth about this payout is not what anyone expected, and what comes next will leave you speechless. The crew doesn't just stand around watching gold pour, and they earn every dollar the hard way. They work in freezing temperatures, deal with heavy machinery, and run through insane schedules with barely any time off. The reality: a standard crew member takes home around $144,000 for 6 months of work. I've been here 10 years. It's been a good 10 years, but getting on, got grandchildren I'd really like to see. One miner shared. How many claims is it? 7,500 acres. Geez. Now that number might seem high, but it comes at a price. These workers don't have a cozy 9-to-5 job. They cram about 18 months of work into half a year, working insane hours with almost no breaks. On an average week, these miners are grinding for 75 hours or more. That means they're pushing through exhaustion, handling dangerous conditions, and barely seeing their families. If you do the math, the hourly rate sits at around $28, which doesn't sound all that glamorous when you think about the risk involved. And for those with more experience, they get around $34 an hour. Sure, it's a step up, but is it enough to justify the sheer physical toll? Here's where it gets interesting. The crew isn't working for someone who's stingy. When the season goes well, performance bonuses can be massive, though no one really knows the exact numbers. If the gold haul is big, the crew sees a bigger paycheck. But even then, it's not as simple as just handing over piles of cash. The real payday goes to those who survive the grind and make it through an entire season without tapping out. And let's not forget the reality of mining itself. This isn't a business where you're guaranteed to win. One bad storm, one broken piece of equipment, or one unlucky stretch of dirt can turn a great season into a financial disaster. The gold numbers might sound incredible, but after covering all the costs, there's no telling how much actually makes it into the crew's bank accounts. They don't just face physical exhaustion, they're gambling on a payday that isn't always certain, but mining isn't just about the paycheck. There's also the added bonus of being on a hit reality show. Some crew members pull in extra cash just by being in front of the camera, depending on their role, screen time, and popularity. Certain miners can make anywhere from $10,000 to $330,000 per episode. With over 20 episodes per season, those numbers can add up fast, at least for those in the spotlight. The rest of the crew? Not so much. They still have to rely on their base pay and whatever bonuses are thrown their way. If Caden hadn't caught it, that punk would be underwater by now, and we would be shut down. Of course, there are perks to the job. Free housing and meals during the season help soften the financial burden. When you're working out in the middle of nowhere with no access to the comforts of home, a hot meal and a warm bed make a huge difference. But let's be real, that doesn't make up for the sheer exhaustion and isolation. These workers spend months away from their families, living in tight quarters with little personal space. They're surrounded by the same people day in and day out, with barely any time to unwind. And here's the kicker. No matter how much money they make, the stress of the job never really goes away. The pressure is relentless, the risks are huge, and at the end of it all, they're gambling their physical and mental well-being for a paycheck that might not even be worth it. With a few extra perks, maybe some better recreational facilities, mental health support, or occasional travel allowances, the job might be more bearable. Probably. But in the end, mining is what it is, a brutal, unforgiving business where only the toughest survive. So, is it all worth it? That depends on who you ask. Some crew members are in it for the thrill. Others are just chasing the paycheck. Either way, one thing is clear. Gold mining isn't just about striking it rich. It's about grinding harder than most people could ever imagine. The crew works harder than most people can imagine, and the cost of finding gold is more than just money. It's the harsh reality of mining camp life. Let's be real. This job isn't for the weak. Imagine working 12-hour shifts in freezing weather, surrounded by loud machinery and endless piles of dirt. Now do that for 12 straight days with only 2 days off before diving back into the grind. Every muscle in your body screams. Exhaustion settles deep into your bones, and yet there's no choice but to keep going. This isn't just hard work. It's a brutal test of endurance, both physically and mentally. The mining camp, let's not sugarcoat it. It's miserable. Cramped quarters, zero privacy, and the constant hum of machinery make it impossible to get real rest. The cold isn't just uncomfortable. It's the kind that seeps into your bones and never leaves. Equipment breaks down, the terrain fights back, and every single day feels like an uphill battle. Some don't last a season, and honestly, who could blame them? This isn't just work. It's survival. Day after day, it's the same mind-numbing routine. Move dirt, fix broken machines, repeat. The only real break is the moment your head hits the pillow before waking up to do it all over again. Exhaustion is real, physically, mentally, emotionally. 5 minutes of rest feels like winning the lottery. But why do they do it? Is the paycheck really enough to justify this relentless grind, or is there something else keeping them here? Not everyone can handle this life. I wasn't going to let anybody hold me back, and that's why every time there was an issue, I'll let people know. We fire people. You left early? You're fired. People quit. 1 day's notice. There is only a certain kind of person who survives in this world, and they rely on each other to do it. The team isn't just coworkers, they're lifelines. A joke, a small win, even a decent meal. These tiny moments are the only things that keep them from breaking. That's why the cook, probably the most important person in camp, is key. Good food is fuel, and a hungry miner is an angry miner. Parker gets it. He knows that keeping his crew fed means keeping them moving. But food isn't enough to make this lifestyle bearable. Camaraderie is what holds it all together. These people spend more time with each other than with their own families, facing the same brutal conditions day in and day out. When things go wrong, and they always do, it's the team that keeps them from quitting. Without that bond, even the toughest worker won't last long out here. This job isn't just about gold. It's about the people tough enough to chase it. While the crew suffers through the grind, Parker Schnabel plays a different game. Sure, he started in the trenches, but now he's the boss. That means huge financial risks, but also the biggest rewards. Depending on the season, he pulls in anywhere from $600,000 to over $1 million a year, and that's not just from gold. TV deals, sponsorships, and smart investments keep him on top. He's not just a miner, he's a businessman, making sure his empire stays profitable no matter what happens in the dirt. Parker's focus has shifted. Less time operating machinery, more time dealing with logistics, licenses, and business negotiations. Here we go. Last cleanup of kin. We got 40, 60, 80, 90. Well, there we go, 93.25%. Money matters, sure, but so does the adventure. The possibility that today could be the day they hit something big keeps them going. Mining is brutal. The exhaustion, the cold, the endless work. It's enough to break even the toughest. The money. It's good, but never guaranteed. Every season is a gamble, every shift a challenge. But for those who stick it out, the payoff, both financially and personally, can change everything. So what is it that really keeps them out here? The promise of gold, the adrenaline of the hunt, or something else entirely? One thing's for sure, this life isn't for everyone. But for those who can handle it, it's an addiction they can't walk away from. While the crew struggles through long days, Parker Schnabel has been working toward this moment since he was a kid. From teen miner to gold king, Parker Schnabel wasn't born with a silver spoon, but he sure had gold running through his veins. Born in the small town of Haines, Alaska, in the summer of 1994, he was raised in a family that breathed mining. His grandfather, the legendary John Schnabel, owned Big Nugget Mine, and it didn't take long for him to start digging, literally. While other kids played video games, he was out there operating heavy machinery, barely tall enough to reach the controls. Some would call it unusual. He called it training for the future. By the time high school rolled around, he was splitting his time between the basketball court and the mine. He was a varsity player, sure, but let's be real. The real competition was in the dirt, hunting for gold. College? Not for him. While his classmates worried about essays and exams, he had a bigger challenge ahead. At just 16, he was running Big Nugget Mine after his grandfather stepped down due to health issues. Imagine leading a team of grown men, twice your age, and telling them how to do their job. That's exactly what he did, and he did it well. An investment opportunity came when the Discovery Channel's Gold Rush turned its cameras toward the Schnabel family. At first, it was all about John, the wise and experienced miner, but when he took over, the show got a fresh dose of energy. People loved watching a kid outsmart veteran miners, proving that skill and determination mattered more than age. He wasn't just playing in the dirt, he was building an empire. Then came the big gamble. Season 4 of Gold Rush saw him make a move that could have either made or broken him. He threw his college savings into a risky mining lease in the Yukon Territory. Most people in their late teens are worried about their first job or their first car. He was betting everything on gold. A reckless decision? Maybe. But it paid off in a massive way. His first season alone, he pulled out over 1,000 ounces of gold worth more than $1 million. That was just the beginning. Year after year, he kept outdoing himself. By the time he hit 24, he had mined over $13 million in gold. Let that sink in. Before most people figure out what they want to do in life, he was already a self-made millionaire. But money wasn't the only thing piling up. So was his reputation. No longer just the kid from Gold Rush, he became the face of modern mining, proving that the industry still had plenty to offer for those willing to work for it. Of course, success comes at a cost. His relentless work ethic didn't leave much room for anything else, including relationships. He dated Australian veterinary nurse Ashley Yule for a while, and she even appeared on the show, but let's just say mining and romance don't always mix well. He admitted that he was too focused on his career to make the relationship work. It was a classic case of ambition overshadowing personal life. Then there's the fact that mining isn't all glitz and gold. I wasn't going to let anybody hold me back, and that's why every time there was an issue, I'll let people know we fire people who left early. You're fired. People quit with one-day notice. That is the industry. Brutal, long hours, unpredictable conditions, and endless risks. Equipment breaks, claims don't always pay off, and bad weather can ruin an entire season, but he thrives in chaos. Instead of backing down, he leans into the challenge, constantly pushing his limits. He even took things a step further with Gold Rush Parker's Trail, a spin-off series that followed him across different parts of the world, testing his skills in completely new environments. Despite everything, he stays surprisingly down to earth. He doesn't throw his millions around on flashy cars or giant mansions. Instead, he invests in his business and values experiences over things. He takes his father to big sporting events and makes sure his mining crew gets well-deserved breaks. Unlike some reality TV stars who let fame get to their heads, he remains focused on what really matters, finding gold and proving he's one of the best in the game. Gold mining isn't just about getting rich. It's a tough fight full of risks, mistakes, and lessons that shape every miner. The wildest gamble in Gold Rush history, mining for gold, isn't just about striking it rich. It's about the struggle, the grit, and sometimes the downright bad decisions. Gold Rush has followed miners through every season, watching as they rise, fall, and sometimes completely crash in their endless hunt for gold. Some dig deep and come up with fortunes, while others end up broke, exhausted, and questioning their life choices. And let's be honest, half the fun of watching is seeing just how much disaster these crews can survive before they throw in the towel. Back in the beginning, Todd Hoffman and his crew showed up in Alaska with big dreams and barely any mining experience. That alone should have been a red flag, but they still managed to find some gold despite making mistakes that would make an actual miner cringe. They were determined, though, and that sheer stubbornness kept them going. By Season 2, more players enter the game, including Parker Schnabel, a kid with mining in his blood, and Dakota Fred Hurd, who made waves by snatching the Porcupine Creek claim right from under Todd's nose. Meanwhile, the Hoffman crew packed up and moved to the Klondike, hoping for a fresh start. With every season, the stakes got higher. By the third year, these miners weren't just amateurs with a dream. They were learning from their mistakes, upgrading their equipment, and finding real gold. Todd and his team expanded to Indian River. Parker stuck with his family's big nugget mine, and Fred kept clawing away at Porcupine Creek. Our season total, 5,066. We broke the 5,000 mark, you guys. Cheers. Hey, that's pretty cool, man. The gold totals were finally starting to look decent, proving that experience actually counts for something in this business. Then came Season 4, and Todd Hoffman made one of the most ridiculous decisions of his mining career, heading straight into the jungles of Guyana. If it sounds like a bad idea, that's because it was. Instead of gold, they found mud, failure, and a whole lot of frustration. Meanwhile, Parker made a smart move and leased Scryer Creek, and it paid off big time. Fred and his son Dustin took on Khan Creek, fighting some of the roughest terrain. Yet, Season 5 was a game changer, especially for Parker. The kid was on fire, turning Scriber Creek into a gold-producing machine. Todd, after his South American disaster, found redemption at McKinnon Creek, where his crew finally pulled in a decent haul. Then there was Tony Beats, a mining legend who decided to take things old school by restoring a decade-old dredge, trying to bring a forgotten mining method back to life. By Season 6, the gold rush wasn't slowing down. Parker kept breaking records at Scriber Creek. Todd's crew nearly doubled their previous gold total, and Tony Beats, being the stubborn miner he is, pushed forward with his dredge project despite every possible challenge. Nothing about this season was easy, but the rewards were huge for those who could tough it out. Season 7 brought another year of chaos. Todd tried mining in Oregon, but it flopped, forcing him to relocate yet again, this time to Colorado. Parker, on the other hand, had his best season yet, pulling in over 4,000 ounces of gold, proving that he wasn't just some lucky kid. He was a force to be reckoned with. Tony Beats, of course, kept up with his dredge obsession, hoping it would give him the edge he needed. Season 8 brought one of the biggest showdowns yet, a wager between Todd and Parker. The goal was 5,000 ounces. Parker not only met it but crushed it, pulling in over 6,000 ounces, while Todd's crew failed to hit the mark. That failure sealed Todd's fate, and he walked away from the show. Tony, meanwhile, doubled down, resurrecting another old dredge to keep his empire growing. It's wildly stressful waiting to find out if you're going to make it back. Did we? I think it's close. Season 9 introduced a new solo miner, Rick Ness. Once Parker's right-hand man, he set off on his own, proving he had what it took by surpassing his 1,000-ounce goal. Parker continued his streak, bringing in more gold than ever before, while Tony ran into major roadblocks with mining regulations but still found a way to make things work. By Season 10, the challenges were getting even tougher. Parker had to navigate new terrain while gold prices surged, making every ounce even more valuable. Rick Ness faced frozen ground and broken down equipment but kept pushing forward. Tony Beats dealt with serious water license issues, forcing him to rethink his whole operation. No matter the setbacks, these miners weren't giving up. Then came Season 11, where the entire world was thrown into chaos. The global pandemic changed everything, and mining was no exception. Parker, Rick, Tony, and even newcomer Fred Lewis had to adapt fast, figuring out how to keep operations running despite travel restrictions, supply shortages, and labor issues. It was one of the hardest seasons yet, proving that even the best miners couldn't predict everything. Did Parker snub the crew out of generosity, or was this just a smart move to keep them working even harder? In conclusion, the world of gold mining, as depicted in the reality series Gold Rush, is a brutal and unforgiving journey marked by extreme challenges, both physical and emotional. Parker Schnabel's operation, despite the impressive numbers, over 73,000 ounces of gold worth more than $14 million, highlights the intense realities of the industry. The immense payouts, while alluring on the surface, are not without their hidden costs. The miners endure grueling work conditions, long hours, and constant physical strain, earning an hourly wage that, when broken down, might not seem as glamorous as it appears. Their risks are compounded by the unpredictable nature of mining itself. One wrong move or a piece of broken equipment can quickly turn a potentially lucrative season into a financial disaster. Beyond the financials, the true essence of this grueling profession lies in the camaraderie and determination of the crew. The bonds formed in the mining camps are essential to survival, as workers rely on each other to push through the relentless grind. It's not just about gold. It's about the people who are tough enough to chase it, enduring isolation, exhaustion, and uncertainty. For some, it's the thrill of the hunt and the dream of striking it rich. For others, it's the adrenaline rush and the deep sense of achievement that comes with completing each season against all odds. Ultimately, Parker Schnabel's leadership and business savvy have elevated him beyond a mere miner. He is a businessman and media figure who has built an empire. His crew, though, remains the backbone of his operation, working under conditions that test their limits. The paychecks are significant, but the mental and physical toll is undeniable. Gold mining is a gamble, and while the rewards can be massive, the cost, both tangible and intangible, often outweighs the glimmering allure of wealth. For those tough enough to stick it out, it's a life unlike any other, filled with highs, lows, and the constant pursuit of gold. Tell us what you think, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.